At the wedding reception, Stacey Morgan, Ethan Sullivan's childhood sweetheart, leaned in and asked him, "If I crashed this wedding to steal you away, would you come with me?" Ethan answered without hesitation, "I will." A dead silence fell over the room. It was only then that Ethan snapped back to reality and hurried to explain to me, "Clara, I was just kidding. Don't take it seriously." I smiled and said, "Don't be like that. I was just about to wish you a lovely family with kids. And all the happiness for you and yours." The moment the words left my mouth, the room went completely quiet. Every eye in the room turned to me. There was shock, surprise, and above all, smug delight at my misfortune. Everyone knew Ethan Sullivan was my whole world. They thought I'd never dare make a scene. I figured they all assumed I was just talking tough to save a little face. But Ethan's face darkened, ignoring the people around him trying to hold him back. He grabbed a glass of wine and hurled its contents straight at my face. "Clara Bennett, what is wrong with you?" he yelled. "I told you it was just a joke. On our wedding day. Who do you think you're disgusting with that crap? I regret ever saying yes to your proposal. After all these years, you're still just as petty as ever." Wine dripped down from the hair falling over my forehead. I must have looked like a drowned rat. Utterly humiliated. I'd spoiled Ethan rotten. Spoiled him so badly he was completely out of control. Whenever he was in a bad mood, no matter the occasion, no matter who was watching, he'd snap at me, yell at me. Whatever he wanted. He'd trampled my dignity into the dirt. Maybe he'd been so reckless this time because he thought I'd meekly apologize, just like I always did. Seeing me so disheveled, he didn't panic at all. Instead, he held his chin high, high and mighty, waiting for me to say I was sorry. Honestly, having a relationship turn out like this, it was embarrassing to even think about. I picked up a nearby napkin and wiped the wine from my forehead, my voice completely flat. "You two are devoted and loyal. A perfect-looking couple. You'd even put on this whole sob story at a wedding reception for love. If I broke you up, I'd be the villain who tears apart a loving couple. Might as well. Consider today's reception my wedding gift to you both. May you grow old together happily." I lifted my glass towards Stacey. "Congratulations, Stacey. You finally got what you wanted." No one expected me to say that. Not even Stacey herself. She'd probably only meant to get under my skin on my big day. She never thought she'd be the one backed into a corner. "Clara, what are you talking about?" she stammered. "Ethan and I have never had anything between us. We're just good friends. If you can't take a joke, I'll apologize." "Okay." Ethan couldn't stand to see his childhood sweetheart grovel in front of me. He stepped in front of Stacey like a mother hen protecting her chick, glaring at me with pure hatred. That loathing, seeping from every pore, stung a little, like I was some kind of monster. "You ruined our perfect wedding. Are you happy now? Apologize right now, or I'll never marry you. Not ever." Looking at his face, flushed with anger, a coldness settled in my chest. Who had really ruined everything? After all these years of everything I'd given him, was it really worth less than a few words from his so-called childhood sweetheart? My fiancé was ready to run off with another woman, and I was supposed to play the gracious bride and act like nothing was wrong. Before he could speak again, I cut him off. "Don't bother. Since you two are so devoted to each other, I'll do the decent thing and step aside." With that, I grabbed my coat and car keys and walked straight out. Maybe he hadn't expected me to humiliate him right back. He flew into a rage, yelling after me, "Clara, if you walk out that door today, we're done. I'll divorce you." I paused. Ethan thought I'd caved, and his voice turned smug at once. "Scared? Then get your ass back here and get on your knees and apologize to Stacey." But I just turned around, a bitter smile on my face. "Fine. I'll see you at the county clerk's office. Whoever doesn't show is a coward." I slipped off my engagement ring, set it down on a nearby waitress's tray, and walked out without looking back. I loved Ethan. I really did. But I wasn't about to be his cuckold. These two had said those things in front of every friend and family member there. They might as well have admitted they were cheating, and I was supposed to smile and play along. Maybe my love for him had twisted this relationship into something ugly, let him get away with far too much. If that was the case, it was better to just let go. Our wedding was called off, and with it, our 5-year relationship came to an end. Ethan's parents, probably to save face, showed up at our house with gifts, trying to smooth things over, but my parents turned them away. Furious, I didn't see them either. I just stayed in my room, deleting photo after photo of me and Ethan. Was I heartbroken? Of course I was. I'd known for a long time that Ethan's heart belonged to Stacy, not me, but for 7 years, I'd thought I could win him over with love. That Stacy would just be a footnote in our story. But at the wedding, Stacy showed up, still beautiful, still bright. Ethan had told me she was a special guest, there to wish us well. I just never imagined her idea of a blessing would be that. Ding. A text pinged on my phone. My bank account had just been charged $30,000. I didn't have to guess. This was Ethan getting back at me. His debit card was linked to my account. It was his go-to move whenever he was mad. He'd blow my money on a shopping spree. The worst time. He'd spent nearly $200,000 in a single night, and when I'd called him out on it, he'd acted like it was only fair. Everyone thought I was his simp, even him. Wasn't it only natural for a simp to spend money on her perfect guy? In the past, I probably would have let it slide, but not anymore. I was done being his chump. He got to fool around with his childhood sweetheart and spend my money doing it. Where was the justice in that? Without a second thought, I called the bank and froze his access to my account. Barely 30 seconds after I hung up, Ethan started blowing up my phone, bashing me non-stop. Clara, what is your problem? It's just a little of your stupid money, and you froze my card. Unfreeze it right now. I'm trying to pay a bill here. I was about to reply when I heard Stacy's voice in the background. She won't even pay for this. Wow. What a cheapskate. It clicked all at once. No wonder he'd spent so much in just a few minutes. He was using my money to impress her. Let me make this clear, I said coolly. You're not my husband. You're not my partner. My money is none of your business. If she loves you so much, she can pick up the tab. Right. Caught off guard by my coldness, he paused for a few seconds, then hissed, "You're so petty." Stacy was right. You really are a small, bitter woman. Huh? Stacy this, Stacy that. He seemed to forget who'd waited on him hand and foot all these years, who'd let him feed his vanity without limits. But as soon as his childhood sweetheart was around, everything was my fault. After all these years of giving him everything without complaint, even a dog would wag its tail for me. But the truth was simple. If someone doesn't love you, they just don't love you. I hung up and threw myself into work. No matter how humiliating that wedding had been, life went on. I'd thought the whole mess would fade with time, but I'd underestimated just how shameless the two of them were. 3 days after the wedding, a friend texted me, "Girl, you need to see Ethan's Instagram feed right now." There was anger in her tone, and it made me curious. When I pulled up his profile, I saw exactly why she was so upset. It was a photo of Ethan and Stacy wrapped in each other's arms, with a caption, "Love conquers all." Both of them were wearing shiny new diamond rings. I had a pretty good idea where that $30,000 had gone. Worse, the background was clearly a hotel bathroom. Ethan was wearing a hotel bathrobe, the logo plain as day on the chest. I stared at the obvious hickey on Ethan's neck, stunned. Their shamelessness was beyond anything I'd imagined. 3 days ago, he'd been greeting guests at our wedding. 3 days later, he was sleeping with another woman in a hotel room. The speed of it was almost impressive. Even though I'd already given up on him, seeing it still twisted my heart. This was the man I'd loved for 5 years. We'd had good times. Once, back in school, he'd been handsome, smart, the guy everyone knew. Me, aside from coming from a wealthy family, I was just like every other girl who'd admired him from afar. Stacy had gone to the same school. Unlike me, she was talented and stunning. The girl every guy had a crush on. Everyone had thought they were the perfect golden couple. Wherever they went, they were the center of attention. Back then, I'd been a little sad about it. But I'd never dreamed someone like him would notice me. I was happy just watching from a distance. If things had gone normally, he would have just been a sweet, unrequited memory from my youth. But life had other plans. Not long after graduation, Ethan's family business collapsed. He went from golden boy to nothing overnight. For a while, he'd even survived on loans. Stacy's family was well off too. and her parents had refused to let her marry a man in debt, so they'd broken up. Then one night, Ethan called me. He was crying so hard on the other end of the line. I dropped everything and rushed to his place in the middle of the night, sitting there while he poured out all his pain. Afterward, he'd undressed and crawled into my arms, saying he wanted to give himself to me, on one condition: that I give him enough money to save his family's business. When your high school crush comes onto you like that, how do you say no? I knew the relationship wasn't pure. Not really, but I loved him like he was my whole world anyway. So throughout our relationship, I'd said yes to almost everything he asked. And slowly, over years of trying, I'd thought that messy, complicated love had turned into something real. I'd thought we were finally on track. Then Stacy came back from abroad. Ethan told me her parents had died in an accident while traveling overseas. The last thing keeping them apart was gone, and sure enough, the second they saw each other again, things caught fire like wildfire. There was no stopping it. I just hadn't wanted to believe it. Was he really that eager to move on? Did 5 years with me mean absolutely nothing to him? Burning with that question, I left a comment under the photo. Spending your fiancé's money on your side piece. Have you no shame? My comment was deleted almost instantly. Right after, Ethan sent me a text, dripping with sarcasm and contempt. You should be honored I spend your money. And for the record, Stacy's the real one here. You're just a simp who thought she could move up. Dream on. Oh, and one more thing, the hotel room. That came out of your card too. I set my phone down slowly, my knuckles white where I gripped it. I couldn't fathom how cold Ethan had to be to say those things. I could almost picture the two of them laughing at me on the other end of the line. I should have known this relationship was rotten to the core a long time ago. I'd just been too stubborn to let go. After a long, quiet moment, I texted back, I wish you both every happiness. Then I deleted his number and blocked him on everything. I drove home, planning to pack my things and move out. But the second I pushed open the front door, my stomach turned. Ethan and Stacy were curled up on the couch, laughing and talking. The couch was huge, but they were pressed right up against each other, feeding each other snacks. They looked so cozy, like they owned the place. I was so furious I could barely breathe. I marched over and kicked the snacks off the coffee table. Ethan, have you no decency? I don't care what you do behind my back, but you do not bring her into my house. Ethan didn't even flinch. Why are you being so dramatic? Stacy just got back. She doesn't know anyone around here. Is it so bad that I'm letting her stay a few days? Stop making everything dirty. We're just friends. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Dirty. They'd already hooked up in a hotel for everyone to see, and he was still calling it just friends. Friends with benefits. More like, I didn't want to argue about it. Since you're here, let's get this straight. I bought this house, but if you want it so bad, you can have it. I don't want it anymore. It feels dirty. Let's pick a day and go to the county clerk's office for the divorce. Then you can chase your true love all you want. We're done. With that, I turned to leave. Ethan panicked. He'd thought I was still his doormat, that a few sweet words would fix everything. But when he saw me walk away without a second glance, he finally broke. For the first time in all our years together, he backed down. Fine, I was wrong. Okay, I'm sorry. Even his apology sounded annoyed, like I was the one being unreasonable. I shook my head. I'd coddled him for so long he'd forgotten who'd given him the life he'd enjoyed all these years. When I didn't forgive him, his spoiled brat side came roaring back. Clara Bennett, who do you think you are? You think I would have dated you if you weren't rich? Without me, you're nothing, just a sad little simp. He stood there, all high and mighty, like spending my money was some huge favor he was doing me. But I didn't want to beg for his love anymore. Not like that. The front door slammed shut behind me, cutting off his furious shouting. He knew damn well that without me, his life would fall apart. All these years, my family had funded his family's business and his lavish lifestyle. After the wedding fiasco, my parents had no reason to cut him any slack. Without their support, his family's business crashed again, and his money dried up fast. Now he was stuck living off a $4,000 or $5,000 a month job. It was enough to get by, sure, but after years of living large, there was no way he'd settle for ordinary. About 2 weeks later, Ethan showed up at my office. all smiles. For a second I felt dizzy, like none of it had happened. Like we were back to how things were before Stacy came home. He was carrying a shopping bag with a designer dress inside. Hey, baby, the seasons are changing. So I got you a dress. I spent all afternoon at the mall picking it out. Come on, try it on. Once, I would have lit up and taken it right away. But now, I didn't move an inch. Awkwardness flickered across his face. He pulled the dress out and stepped toward me, holding it up to my body. Come on, just try it. I got it in your size. I stopped him and took the dress myself. For a second, seeing him so tentative, I almost felt bad. Then I saw the size tag, and that flicker of guilt vanished, replaced by cold anger. It was 2 sizes too small, way too small for me. Perfect for Stacy, though. I got it right away. His all afternoon at the mall had been a date with her, and he'd grabbed a second dress to keep me on the hook. Why not? Keep your sugar mama happy while you chase your sweetheart. It's not my size, I said, tossing it back at him. Ethan froze. That can't be right. Stacy said he cut himself off, eyes wide. Clara, wait. Let me explain. But I was done listening. Anything else would just be more lies. A waste of time. Ethan's patience snapped. I'd always been the one fawning over him, doing whatever he wanted, buying me a dress. That was the biggest concession he thought he could make. When I wouldn't play along, he exploded, hurling the dress to the floor. Clara, enough already. I said I was sorry. What more do you want from me? I looked up at him, calm. If you really want to apologize. It's simple. Yeah, his eyes lit up. Name it. If you'll forgive me, I'll do anything. Cut off all contact with Stacy. Never see her again. Ethan went still. The rest of his sentence died in his throat. I sighed. I'd known it would go like this. I checked the time and stood up. If that's all, you can show yourself out. I have a meeting. Excuse me. Ethan panicked and grabbed my arm. No, don't go. You promised you'd take care of me forever. You can't take that back. I looked him dead in the eye. I felt nothing. You promised me you'd never see Stacy again. 2. Did you keep that promise? He froze, head hanging, with nothing to say. After a long moment, he grabbed his bag and the dress and left without another word. Maybe my resolve had gotten through to him, or maybe he was too busy with Stacy. Either way, he didn't bother me for almost 2 weeks. I finally had some peace. Ethan was avoiding the divorce, but I figured Stacy would push for it faster than I ever could. I was doing fine, but someone else was losing sleep over it. My mom called me almost every day, nagging me to go on blind dates. She was getting older, and all she wanted was grandkids, a big happy family. But with my wedding called off, that dream had fallen apart. She was frantic. I couldn't put her off any longer. So I agreed to meet the guy. At least it would get her off my back. Sitting there in the restaurant, I was weirdly nervous, trying to figure out how to tell him I'd only come to appease my mom. Well, hello there, bride. Fancy seeing you here. A playful voice came from behind me. I blinked and looked up. The man in front of me looked familiar, but he was in sharp business casual clothes, those big playful eyes crinkling at the corners. For a second, I almost didn't recognize him. You. Running into an old acquaintance like this was the last thing I'd expected. Leo Hartwell, what are you doing here? He snickered and slid into the seat across from me. Figured someone might be feeling down after the breakup. My mom showed me your photo for the blind date, so I figured I'd come cheer you up. My old middle school desk mate. I was still reeling from the surprise when a question popped into my head. How did you know about my wedding? Leo gave me a mysterious smile. Guess. I thought for a second, then shook my head. You're such a dork, he teased, pulling a ring out of his bag. It was my engagement ring, the one I'd left at the wedding. I stared, stunned. The image of him lined up with the server I'd handed the ring to. You were that server. Bingo. He snapped his fingers. But why? I didn't get it. Leo's family was just as wealthy as mine. Why would he be working as a server? Let's just say I wanted to fix an old regret. He grinned. There was something in his words that made my cheeks warm. Thankfully, he didn't tease me about it anymore. We started talking about the old days. Back then, Leo hadn't been this gentle at all. He'd been a troublemaker, always waving his fist around like he owned the place. I'd always complained, "You're so mean, who's ever gonna marry you?" And he'd just shrug and say, "If no one else will, I'll just bug you forever. You can take it. Fine, fine, I'll marry you. Okay, happy now." Talking about it all brought back so many memories. My parents actually joked about arranging a childhood marriage between us back then. "Guess Ethan beat you to it." Leo smiled, something unreadable in his eyes. I didn't say anything. If it hadn't been for Ethan, maybe we would have ended up together. But so many years had passed. Everything's changed. And I'd just gotten out of a messy relationship. Who knew what Leo thought about all that? Then, softly, he said, "I only came on this date to ask you one thing." He looked at me, his eyes warm and steady. "That thing you said about marrying me, does it still count?" My mind went blank. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would jump out of my chest. "Clara, what are you doing here?" Ethan appeared out of nowhere. Furious, he stormed over and jabbed a finger at Leo, yelling at the top of his lungs, "Who the hell is this guy? No wonder you were so set on divorcing Mayo. Were cheating on me with him. What's he got that I don't? 5 years together, and you throw it all away for some random guy." Every head in the cafe turned toward us. To anyone watching, it probably looked like the scorned husband catching his wife with another man. Most of the stares were judgmental, sneering. I'd had enough of his nonsense. I stood up and shot back, "Have you no shame? We're done. Stop following me around. And let's not forget you're the one who ran off to sleep with someone else and posted it all over Instagram for everyone to see. You're the one who cheated." Ethan was seething, but he couldn't argue with that, so he turned his anger on Leo instead. "You look like a decent guy, but you go after other people's wives. Is that what your parents taught you? You're a disgrace." I'd meant to keep Leo out of this, but I'd forgotten how sharp-tongued he'd been back in the day. He stood up with a cold smirk, glanced at Ethan like he was something he'd stepped in, and spoke. "First off, my parents taught me to have self-respect. I don't think a guy who cheated on his fiancée at his own wedding is in any position to question that. Second, your little true love meltdown at the wedding. The whole town knows about it. I'm amazed you even have the nerve to show your face in public. What? Can't survive without a woman to leech off of." Every word landed like a punch, right to Ethan's pride. He was shaking all over, his finger trembling as he pointed at Leo. "Clara, you're just gonna let him talk to me like that?" I slapped his hand away, my voice sharp. "First of all, stop calling my friend names. Second of all, don't say my name ever again. It sounds disgusting coming from you." Seeing me defend Leo like that, all the fight went out of Ethan. His eyes welled up with tears, red and pitiful. He looked like the wronged party, like I was the one who'd cheated. I felt no sympathy. If anything, it made my stomach turn. Once, I'd begged him to look at me, to choose me. He'd laughed it off. Now he was here, playing the heartbroken lover. No one waits forever. Even the deepest love wears thin, given enough time and enough hurt. Stacy had wandered over at some point, standing beside Ethan. She opened her mouth to say something, but one sharp look from me and she thought better of it. Staying quiet, I took Leo's hand and turned to walk away. Right before we reached the door, Ethan broke down completely and yelled after me, "Clara, can we start over, please?" I paused. I gave Leo a reassuring look. His expression was unreadable, then turned to face Ethan Heaton. "No, we can't, Ethan. A love that's gone bad can't be fixed. You made your choice. Now you have to live with it." Ethan collapsed to the floor, completely devastated. After that day, Ethan agreed to the divorce. The second I walked out of the county clerk's office, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I glanced once at Ethan's red, teary eyes, then took Leo's hand and walked away. I didn't look back. I never would. Maybe it was the attraction, or maybe it was all the history, but things between Leo and me moved fast. We'd known each other forever, so there was already a foundation there, and our families were well matched in background, so our parents loved the idea. They still laughed about that old childhood marriage joke. We made things official pretty quickly, spending every day together, like we had a million things to catch up on. One day, I was out shopping with him. We were at a leather goods counter, and Leo was checking out a belt. When I heard a voice I knew all too well. What do you mean, declined? You think I don't have money? I've got plenty. I turned around and saw Ethan. He looked worn out, like he'd aged 10 years. He'd put on weight, gone soft, nothing like the sharp, handsome guy he'd used to be. He was standing at another counter, yelling at the salesgirl, jabbing his finger at her. She looked mortified, trying to explain again and again, but he kept talking over her. Stacy was next to him, whispering to him to calm down, embarrassed. But Ethan only got louder. Why are you defending her? You sleeping with her or something? Stacy's jaw tightened. She called him a psycho and stormed off alone. Ethan didn't even go after her. He just kept arguing with the salesgirl, and when he spotted Leo and me, he got even more aggressive. This is my wife's card. There's no way it's declined. You're just bad at your job. Get me your manager. I want to file a complaint. The salesgirl looked like she was about to cry, holding up the card reader helplessly. It really says insufficient funds. Sir, I wouldn't turn down a sale if I could help it. Right. But Ethan wasn't listening. He just kept ranting. Leo had seen enough. He worked in finance, so he stepped over, typed the card number into an app on his phone, and checked $13.14 when he saw the balance. Ethan went silent. His face flushed bright red, then went pale. That can't be right. Where'd all the money go? Leo pressed his lips together and handed the card back without a word. Just then, the store manager hurried over. After hearing what had happened, he didn't pull any punches. Insufficient funds isn't something our sales associates can help you with. Sir, I'd suggest you take that up with your bank. Ethan's face turned beet red. He pointed at the manager, sputtering, but couldn't get a single word out. I was tired of the spectacle, so I tugged Leo's arm to leave. We hadn't gotten far when Ethan caught up to us. Holding out his pudgy right hand, there was a ring on his finger, huge and gaudy. The stone looked like it was 10 carats. Easy, see that? Clara, Stacy got this for me, not like you. He trailed off, glancing sneeringly at Leo's bare ring finger. Can't even buy you a real diamond. You're still as cheap as ever. Huh? Leo and I exchanged a look and smiled, shaking our heads. Both our families had ties to the jewelry business. That diamond on Ethan's finger had no sparkle, no fire. From the side, it was thin as paper. A real diamond would never look that bad, unless... Well, we both knew what it was. No need to say it out loud. I certainly wasn't going to tell him. He wasn't my problem anymore. When we didn't react, Ethan preened even more. He pulled a wedding invitation out of his bag and shoved it at me. We're getting married next month. For old time's sake, you should come, have a drink. I was about to say no, but Leo snatched the invitation right out of his hand. We'd love to. Free food. Count us in. See you there. I just sighed and nodded. Ethan's smile faltered. He'd probably only meant to rub it in our faces. He never thought Leo would actually say yes, but he couldn't take it back now without looking like a fool. After a second of hesitation, he huffed and strutted away. Once he was gone, I looked at Leo, who was flipping through the invitation, and laughed a little. We're really going? Hell yes, we're going. He scrunched his nose playfully, flashing his little canine teeth. We have to go. How else are we gonna see the perfect golden couple tie the knot? It's golden couple, dummy. On the wedding day, Leo and I showed up right on time. One look at the rustic farm banquet hall and I thought we'd come to the wrong place. If it hadn't been for their wedding photo out front, I would have turned right around. I had no idea how Stacy had talked Ethan into skipping the fancy wedding, back when we'd been getting married. He'd spent almost $300,000 just on the reception and decor. Thinking about it, I was almost impressed by her. When we stepped inside, I couldn't help but stare. Stacy. Wow, she really committed. The whole place reeked of barnyard. The walls were yellowed and peeling. The tables looked moldy. It killed any appetite I might have had. Leo sat down, pulled out a napkin, and wiped off the table in front of him. Nose wrinkled. When the napkin came away greenish, he frowned even harder and gave me a helpless smile. Should have known better. Why'd they pick this dump? Half this stuff is probably older than my grandpa. I snickered, covering my mouth. That guy always had the driest sense of humor. The other guests around us saw and started wiping down their own tables too, clearly worried about what they might be eating off of. Soon, a slick-haired MC took the stage, booming into the microphone about fate and true love and perfect matches, all the usual wedding fluff. But everyone in town knew what had really gone down with these two. All the relatives sitting there knew the full story. Every face in the crowd had a weird, tight look as the MC droned on. Ethan's family had their heads down, practically shrinking into their seats from embarrassment. I shook my head. This whole wedding was just a sad attempt to legitimize their affair. This cheap, sad wedding confirmed what Leo and I had guessed from the start. Stacy didn't love Ethan. Not really. She certainly wasn't willing to spend money on him. Soon, the bride and groom made their entrance. Ethan was in an ill-fitting suit, walking slowly down the aisle surrounded by relatives. The cheap platform creaked under his feet with every step, like it might give out. I half expected him to fall right through it. This was the great love he'd thrown away his dignity for. I didn't get it. The only nice thing there was his suit, shiny, silky looking under the lights. Ethan held his head high, and when he spotted Leo and me in the back, he puffed out his chest even more, like a rooster who'd just won a fight. But then, disaster struck. Right as he reached the center of the stage, the train of his suit caught on something. There was a loud ripping sound, and whole panels of the suit tore off and fell to the ground. It was a cheap, pieced-together fake. Ethan froze, then started panicking, snapping at his best man. "What are you staring at? Fix it. Fix it now. It's my wedding day. Nothing can go wrong." The best man, who clearly knew all about Ethan's mess, just rolled his eyes at the word wedding. TCH. Wedding. You're just a slut playing kept man. Total lowlife. Ethan went white as a sheet, his lips trembling like he wanted to say something, but all the scornful stares from the crowd flustered him. And he just kept calling for Stacy. "Wife, where are you? Stacy. Someone's being mean to your husband." Stacy marched onto the stage, scowling. She pulled out an envelope of cash and handed it to the best man. And that finally shut him up. But the wedding was already ruined. Everyone knew it. Ethan didn't seem to get the memo. Over the crackle of the cheap speakers, he walked toward Stacy, tears in his eyes. He was finally marrying his childhood sweetheart. He must have been over the moon. He was gonna be her real husband, at last. Right as they were about to exchange rings, the front doors of the hall slammed open. The loud bang made everyone turn around, including the two of them on stage. In the doorway stood a paunchy man with a sallow complexion, holding the hand of a little boy who looked about 3 years old. When Stacy saw who it was, all the color drained from her face. What are you doing here?" Before the man could speak, the boy piped up, Mommy, where'd you go? Tommy missed you so much." Crying, he waddled straight toward Stacy. Ethan lost it. He stepped in front of Stacy and yelled at the little boy, "Who's this brat? Stop yelling." The fat man's face darkened, his gaze sharp as poison. "You're the brat. That's my son with Stacy. I wondered where she'd run off to after her family lost all their money. Turns out she was shacking up with you, loser. We're still married. This is bigamy." I sucked in a breath. Wow, that was a lot. Ethan Roon, dead on Stacy, furious. "What is he talking about? You told me you came back for me." Stacy clearly hadn't planned for this. She stared at her feet, avoiding his eyes. That evasion only made Ethan angrier. He grabbed her by the collar and roared, "I paid for everything you've eaten, everything you've worn, and you lied to me. You shameless liar." He raised his hand and raked his nails down her face, leaving bright red streaks behind. That set Stacy off too. She jabbed a finger right in his face and screamed, "Like you're one to talk. You were sleeping with me the whole time you were with Clara." All pretense was gone. Ethan shrieked and lunged at her. They started rolling around, hitting and scratching and screaming every dirty secret they had. The wedding had devolved into a foolin' dog-eat-dog fight. I pulled Leo back toward the door, watching them tear each other apart. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt sad. Maybe their love hadn't been as strong as they thought. All those years apart had changed things, added too much baggage. After all, how strong can a love built on betrayal really be? The next time I saw Ethan, 5 years had passed. I stared at his weathered, worn face, shocked, Ethan. He looked up from his work uniform at the sound of his name, then quickly dropped his gaze again. No, that's not me. You've got the wrong guy. That handsome face was long gone, replaced by deep lines and wear. We were the same age, but he looked 15 years older. He smelled like cheap laundry detergent. His hands, once so smooth and nice, were rough and scarred now. Looking at him like this, I didn't know what to say. Right then, his phone rang. A woman's voice blared from the speaker. You lazy bastard. When are you coming home to cook? You trying to starve me? Ethan mumbled a meek agreement. When he hung up, tears started rolling down his face. It wasn't hard to guess his married life wasn't a happy one. Leo stepped forward then, and pressed a few $100s into Ethan's hand. Here, take it. Ethan stared up at him, blank and stunned. Our daughter, standing beside me, looked up at us curiously. Mommy, Daddy, who's that man? Ethan looked down at her, a bitter smile on his face. She's beautiful. Looks just like her mom. Thank you, sir, our daughter said sweetly. I smiled, took my husband's hand and my daughter's hand, and turned to walk away. Seeing Ethan again didn't stir up much of anything in me. My life was good now. The past was just a story we brought up over casual dinners and everyday chats. Nothing more. I was glad I'd walked away from Ethan all those years ago. If I hadn't, I never would have found Leo, never would have had this happy family. As if on the same wavelength, my husband and I turned to look at each other at the exact same time, and smiled. I hoped every day for the rest of my life could be just like this. Perfect.